propaganda cartoons, one of the most interesting yet controversial genres of animation. During World War II, it was common to see American animation studios crank out shorts with the intention of raising war bonds and disparaging the Axis powers. Popeye, Donald Duck, Bugs Bunny, hell, even Superman fought the Japanese.
Stop where you are. Leave plane immediately, or girl will be released.
Okay, little man, you win.
But following World War II, American animation studios chilled out with their propaganda cartoons. But for other countries and organizations, well, they were just getting started. The Soviet Union, North Korea, and even America snuck in a few. Though this time around, it was the war on drugs.
What's this? A joint?
But recently, I stumbled across a propaganda cartoon that was new to me. One that hails from the lands of China and is ongoing, extremely popular to the Chinese, and is, to my utter surprise, kind of good. Yes, I know, it is very biased, hence why I called it a propaganda cartoon. But even art that is driven by an agenda can still be well made, which is the case for the show in question, Hare Affair.
这是我们二当家兔子。
亲们，大家好。
Imagine a world of characters done in the style of Animal Crossing, but each animal represents a country or government, kind of like Italia. A hare for China, an elephant for India, a bear for Russia, and eagles for the US. Sounds kind of cute, right? Okay, now send them to war.
Move up and keep low. Contact!
Alright, it's not just battles. There are also anime references as well, but war is a big part of the show. After all, Hare Affair is essentially a pro-Chinese history lesson about the CPC, the Communist Party of China, via Animal Crossing characters. Even the outros feature historical pictures and information about events that each episode is based on, except you got like the little animals edited into the pictures, which is extremely insulting and simultaneously absolutely hilarious. Now, what is the appeal behind this controversial show, and why do the Chinese love it so much? What does it do right, and what does it do wrong? I mean, for starters, some of these animal depictions aren't the most flattering, especially for Africa. And I'm pretty sure that the Chinese did not figure out calculations to create their own atomic bomb by just using abacuses. Methinks that's a stretch of the truth. But once more, this is a propaganda cartoon. So yeah, we can expect some outlandish bias when it comes to recalling historical events.
于是那年，兔子用算盘在2年之内把蘑菇蛋的理论设计打出来了。
A quick disclaimer, we are about to go into some emotionally charged history, and I am not a historian. However, I will try my best to provide accurate information regardless of any bias. Now you would think, as an American, this would be difficult for me, but you would be surprised. Because for some reason, propaganda cartoons that dunk on the US keep portraying us as badass wolves or eagles. You know what would make these eagle soldiers even cooler? If they had water-resistant shoes like my Vessies, yes, is a sponsor. Check it out. So a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Vessi. Now they've been a long-standing sponsor for the channel and provide some top-tier shoes. My entire shoe rack near my front door is virtually all Vessi, so you better believe I'm a big fan of their products. I wear them every day. Like seriously, when I run errands, when I go out with friends, when I travel, hell, even when jumping out of a plane. But today, I'm excited to talk about the newest entry into the Vessi family. And guess what? It's not even a shoe. It's a rain jacket called the Overcast. And folks, do I love it. It's stylish, super soft, and 100% waterproof. Plus, there's a soft fleece lining that keeps you toasty on chilly days. Like, this jacket is already becoming a staple of my fall wardrobe, which is great because, again, I'm rocking that style and comfort while staying dry the entire time. So I highly recommend Vessies. They're my go-to shoes by the door. And now, even jacket on my coat rack. Hit up the description down below and go to vessie.com/Saberspark to get 15% off your order. And now, back to Animal Crossing characters killing each other, because that's reality.
了解一下呀，亲，了解一下。你们连马列主义都不看，命中还想靠信仰啊！
Hare Affair was originally a webcomic created by Lin Chao in 2011. Now, I think initially it went by the name of That Year, That Rabbit, Those Things, but I could not confirm that with a source. But during my research, I noticed that the webcomic and show were both called that, and also called Hare Affair. You know, I just wanted to mention that, but I digress. The webcomic was a sleeper hit. Many Chinese internet users love seeing the rabbit represent China and overthrow the chains of foreign oppression. You would think it would be a panda to represent China, you know, like Kung Fu Panda 5. But apparently, it is not uncommon to see rabbits be held to high cultural esteem. Eventually, Lin was able to raise enough money to create a short animated series with the first 12 episodes coming out in 2015. These 7-minute shorts would become viral hits in China and definitely struck a chord with the Chinese youth, like the demographic of teenagers and 20-year-olds. Now, for those who don't know, a lot of young people in China are quite patriotic and absolutely love the CPC. According to a source, the Chinese government loves, in return, Hare Affair, and has even inquired about incorporating it to an even further degree. But Lin apparently refuses to do so. He said, quote, "I am, after all, an artist, so I don't want to get too close to the authorities. But of course, I cannot tell them that. The reason I gave them was that in terms of its propaganda value, Hare Affair might work better if it remains unofficial." End quote. It also says in the source that Lin allowed the Chinese authorities to use images of the rabbit for non-commercial purposes. What an interesting situation, right? To make what is essentially a CPC propaganda cartoon, but to be apprehensive of the CPC using it? What? Also, something about Lin wanting to franchise Hare Affair like Captain America and doing a feature film? Okay, you gotta love this quote from Lin, all right? Quote, "Loving my country and making money. I don't see any contradiction between the two." End quote. I think Lin is a bit more American than he realizes, especially if he's comparing Hare to Captain America. Things got even more interesting in June of 2020, when a border skirmish between China and India led to a handful of casualties on both sides. One of said casualties was Zhao Ziyuan, a 24-year-old Chinese soldier who died during the conflict. The story goes that he had the rabbit from Hare Affair as his profile picture on his WeChat account. This resonated with a bunch of young Chinese patriots who saw Zhao as a martyr, and that Hare Affair inspired him. You even got this bit of art paying homage to the event, with a lone rabbit standing up to the Hindi elephants. By the way, you want to know how this skirmish was fought? With sticks and rocks. Apparently, there's some border agreement between China and India to not use firearms in order to avoid violent escalation, but that sticks and rocks are totally okay. I have no words for how ridiculous this is. Imagine signing diplomatic paperwork that's related to acting like cavemen.
知道吗？我是北非战场、印度支那欧陆风云战场老兵，英勇作战，抗击旗下闻风丧胆、世界第3的文明古国的神勇无敌大本象视野。
Alright, so where does Hare Affair exactly start? Well, with something called the Century of Humiliation. In a nutshell, it was this period of time in China, like from the 1840s to the 1940s, where Western powers, plus Japan, brought the Chinese to their knees. The country was chopped up and ruled over by foreign powers such as Russia, Germany, and the British Empire. It wouldn't be until around the end of World War II where China would start to pull itself back together again. And boy, did they have an axe to grind, especially under the banner of the CPC. They would no longer be victims, and ironically, it would be one of their greatest future rivals who would free them from the Japanese. Let's just say that the first episode ends with a bang. From that point onward, we see these anthropomorphic allegories showcase the rise of the CPC and the historical growth pains of China on the world stage. Let us run down the list of entities in the show and the characters that represent them. The Hare, aka the People's Republic of China. The Eagle, America. The Bear, the Soviet Union. Japan, a chicken, I think? It might be a crane, but I think it's a chicken. North and South Korea. Worms? Sticks, maybe? India, an elephant. England, a bull. Should be a bulldog. France, a rooster. That works. Germany, a cat. Arab countries, a camel. Ooh. African countries, a hippo. Could have been a lion, but you know, whatever. Now, there are a few other characters that represent other facets of countries or governments, such as the Republic of China with this bald-headed character. But my favorite is Lin's self-insert as this dragon snake. He even got the rabbits getting pissed at the dragon for being late on deadlines for the show. Because Lin's out playing video games or something.
这个东西你眼熟吧？
不知道，没见过。
这是你机箱硬盘，为了让你好好工作，除了工作以外的其他东西，我都会帮你删干净的。
好汉饶命！不要啊！
我看看，小坦克啊，使命召唤啊，星际争霸啊。
For the record, it is hard to come by the English sub version of the show. There are some episodes subbed on YouTube, but only around 20 of the 40 that exist. I wish there was a more official place to check out the show, but oh well, I guess China doesn't want me to see it. As far as the progression of the show goes, it seems to be historically chronological. Well, from at least what I can tell. Though there are some episodes that jump back to the Korean War, on episode 35 and 6 and 7 and 8. Pretty sure. Again, it's kind of a crapshoot to know exactly the episode progression, the episode numbers, seasons, because it's kind of cryptic. I wish, again, there was a more official source, but oh well. I'll tell you this though, there is just something so alluring about little cute characters just murdering one another. There are episodes about prisoners of war, diplomatic negotiations going sour, episodes about China getting caught up in the Cold War between America and the Soviet Union. And then there's this multi-part series about China making a mad dash to develop the atomic bomb. For the CPC, it was of the utmost paramount to them to have nuclear capabilities in order to be taken seriously by competing world powers. The results? Bombastic to say the least.
Whenever I see a world untouched by war, a world of lush forests and clear rivers, I really just want to nuke the crap out of it.
It's an interesting sensation for me to watch this show. On one hand, I was learning a lot about Chinese history that I never knew about. Apparently, the Russians and Chinese had a nasty breakup called the Sino-Soviet split, which included a border conflict leading to casualties on both sides. I had no idea. Also, China is a lot closer to Africa than I realized. Something about how the Hare wanted to play with other countries, but only the hippos of Africa were willing to play? Or so is the understanding of the episode. And how this leads to African countries being armed and trained by the Chinese forces, but said hippos being slow and difficult to train, even if they kick the shit out of Simba. By the way, this show is just bursting with references. Disney, StarCraft, World of Warcraft, League of Legends, and Dragon Ball Z. It turns out that the Biden blast can, as a matter of fact, be countered by the communism blast.
共产主义光波！
There was even this moment where apparently America and China were chill for a hot minute during the 1970s. It was called the Honeymoon Period, and the show portrays the hare and the eagle getting along as friends, though in reality, it was more about America and China giving the Soviet Union the middle finger. Yeah, we're friends, as much as it is a convenience to both countries respectively. I have to say though, despite the show being obviously biased to making the rabbit look good and the rest of the world look like dummies, there's a surprising amount of props given to the eagles. Like the hares don't even deny for a second that America is strapped when it comes to weapon sales and military power, like to an envious degree. They know the eagles have all the big toys, yet the eagles are smug snobs when it comes to selling to the rabbits. There's even an episode where the rabbits visit the eagles and see their military and are instantly throwing up white flags. Again, the big theme of the show is about the rabbits rising up to the occasion, that by blood, sweat, and determination, they will catch up with the rest of the world. Now, there's obviously a perceived righteous indignation to this journey, with the rabbits flexing back at the world powers who had once done them dirty. And in that light, I can see the appeal of the show and how it's a bit of an underdog story. But the truth is rarely as black or white as that. The sense of humor in the show is oddly one of its most potent traits. It takes brutal reality and transforms it into something soft, funny, and palatable for young audiences. There's also constant slapstick comedy, along with plenty of visual gags to keep the audience entertained. The Cold War, for example, starts off with Russia and the US eating ice cream while it's snowing outside and throughout the episode. There's also an episode where an eagle visits China and eats like all of their food. And there are multiple episodes where the eagle is selling military weapons in the form of anime girls and toy model sets.
老板，买东西。金酱，来支雪糕呗。
We also have occasional international altercations that usually take the symbolic form of brick throwing. Having a short runtime means that each episode moves at a very quick pace and goes through historical events rapidly. But I think that it accomplishes this task quite effectively. Now, as far as the accuracy of said historical events, we'll talk about that here in a bit. But you better believe that the show wants to pull at the heartstrings of its viewers. One of the main factors that makes the show so appealing to its target audience is the way it humanizes the main and supporting figures. It's a patriotic show that shows the Chinese youth what they want to see. Engaging, entertaining, silly, humanizing stories that make them and their side of history look and feel good. According to Wei Shujin, a CPC member and PhD candidate who studies the history of the CPC, watching Hare Affair is one of the main leisure activities at her CPC History Study Club. That, quote, "The story is not complicated, and the buzzwords that appear from time to time make us laugh. But when I see the prototypes of the story presented at the end of the animation, the real historical photos, I can't help but shed a tear." End quote. She also mentioned, quote, "Although we have beaten the aggressors and become masters of our country, we must not forget the original agreement, using our own hands to create a large family that is well-fed, well-clothed, and not looked down upon by others." End quote. Again, each episode ends with a patriotic anthem playing over real footage and images from China's history. There's also a description of the historical events that took place that the episode was meant to represent. There is an intended effort from Hare Affair to present the actions of the rabbits of the CPC as selfless, noble, and sacrificial. In episode 3, two bunny soldiers are waiting in the snow to ambush the eagles, and the scene makes an allusion to a real event of the time, with volunteer soldiers not having access to proper winter clothes. This is represented by having one of the bunny soldiers warn his friend not to cry or his tears will freeze. The bunny that gave the warning ends up with frozen tears under their face and dies underneath a pile of snow. Another moment from episode 4 has our main hare sit in a dream world with an older bunny soldier that is covered in medals of honor from the war he fought. He sits with a hare and reminisces about the battlefield and how the food is much better nowadays than when he was fighting. The moment ends with him saying how much he misses his brothers. There's also a moment at the end of an episode where two hares are in the US, and one talks about wanting to just come here and live, and the other hare says something along the lines of, if you want to become rich, build it yourself. They did not build this for other people to enjoy. They also talk about working hard, so there is a chance their children can see the dream. And if they do nothing, it only remains a dream. The apple tree keeps being referenced as hope for the Chinese people. The hares gather under the shade of the apple tree. They see the apple as the peace fruit, and it is referenced a few times that they want to go home and plant the tree. And hey, credit where credit is due. The show looks pretty damn good. It's not perfect, but it could be a whole lot worse. The character designs are cute and a fun juxtaposition to the subject matter. The facial emotes are borderline anime and full of expressions. The colors are pleasant to the eyes, and the animation itself has a surprising range. There is talent and effort here, though there are some moments that look rough, especially when they try to implement 3D characters alongside the 2D ones. Like, they don't blend in together whatsoever.
国内的仗打完了，国外的仗也打完了，一没让披红挂彩。
But ultimately, despite the quality traits of Hare Affair, we cannot dismiss the goals of the series, which is praising a political party that has a tyrannical degree of power. I mentioned earlier how it was odd that Lin was fence-sitting about giving the CPC Hare Affair since, you know, they could just take it if they wanted to. Not much in the way of personal freedoms on that front, but I guess the CPC went with the carrot over the rod this time. Ha, carrot, get it? Because it's a rabbit?
认得我们吗？
认得，这不是善良、勇敢、真诚、自强的读者大大和观众老爷吗？
Now, I don't fault the Chinese for feeling a sense of indignation following how bad they got it from colonialism and imperialism. That would culturally traumatize a people when it comes to their beliefs and values. And in their eyes, the CPC stands against everything that ever came to prey on them. That being said, it is not as one-sided as Hare Affair makes it out to be. Are the American Eagles weapon manufacturers who sling grade A military goodness to the highest bidder? Oh, you betcha. Have the American Eagles tried to screw with the rabbits for ulterior motives? Oh, absolutely. Are the rabbits, via the rule of the CPC, as blameless as they are made out to be? Well, I don't recall watching an episode about the Great Chinese Famine that killed an estimated 15 million Chinese on the low end, so, you tell me. Again, a propaganda cartoon is driven by an agenda. And that agenda for Hare Affair is to praise the lofty strength of the Chinese people under the CPC, and to showcase the atrocities and inadequacies of the rest of the world. I truly wish there was more of a conversation that was historically unbiased for Hare Affair. That would definitely make the show a whole lot more palatable, because to no one's surprise, history is an ugly affair. And there's something about these cute little animals that makes said ugly history digestible, informative, and entertaining. It literally could be this full-blown anime series that's super popular, but not if it's going to be biased towards one group over another. In doing so, it completely neutralizes the historical transparency of the series. It needs to be 100% accurate and forthcoming, warts and all, regardless of factions. Because, as it turns out, wow, who would have guessed it? We all suck. But at least we can do so as Animal Crossing characters who sell guns to one another. There you go, Nintendo. You got your next Animal Crossing game right there. Unless, you know, Hare Affair beats you to it. Oh shit, wait. They did.